I prefer the concrete, the graspable, the provable.
You'd make a splendid computer, Mr. Spock.
South Africa Parliament votes for downgrading of ties with Israel. Draft resolution says the country embassy would be downgraded in solidarity with the Palestinians. South Africa's parliament on Tuesday voted in favor of downgrading the country's embassy in Israel in light of continuing abuses against Palestinians. A statement released by the National Freedom Party, which introduced the draft resolution, said it was a move that has been supported by anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela. This is a moment Mandela would be proud of. He always said our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians, read the statement. South Africa's relation with Israel has been tense in recent years, not least as numerous human rights groups, chiming with comments made by Palestinian and South African campaigners for years, declared that Israel was guilty of apartheid. In the statement, the NFP, a center-left party with only 2 seats in the parliament, thanks other parties, including the ruling African National Congress, for their support. The State of Israel was built through the displacement, murder, and maiming of Palestinians, and to maintain their grip on power, they've instituted apartheid to control and manage Palestinians, reading the statement. As South Africans, we refuse to stand by while apartheid is being perpetrated again. Israel forces have killed at least 69 Palestinians since this year, which corresponds to a rate of nearly one killing every day. It's the bloodiest start of the year since 2000, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. At least 13 Israelis were killed by Palestinians in the same period. Nablus and Jenin have witnessed an uptick in armed resistance against Israeli targets in recent months. With Muslim, Christian, and Jewish holidays overlapping next month, many fear more deadly escalations could follow. CI Director William Burns recently said current tensions in the West Bank bear an unhappy resemblance to the Second Intifada. The threat of an uncontrollable outbreak of violence has prompted Jordan, Egypt, and the U.S. to initiate de-escalation efforts in recent months. And from All Israel News, South African Parliament votes to downgrade Israeli embassy. The South African Parliament on Tuesday passed a draft resolution to downgrade its embassy in Israel. The resolution was sponsored by the National Freedom Party, which has only 2 seats and requires the support of other parties to pass the resolution. The NFP said the downgrade would be implemented due to Israel's continuing abuse of Palestinians. A statement released by the party said, "As South Africans, we refuse to stand by while apartheid is being perpetrated again." And from iol.co.za, NFP rejoices at historic Israel embassy downgrade. The National Freedom Party said it was ecstatic that its draft resolution as the National Assembly to downgrade South Africa's embassy in Israel has been passed by Parliament. This is a moment Madiba would be proud of. He always said, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. Today we took a step closer to the attainment of that freedom for Palestinians. MP Ahmed Munzoor Sheikh Imam, who introduced the resolution, said. In 2019, South Africa downgraded its embassy in Tel Aviv following a decision by the ANC more than a year prior. The NFP said that by passing the latest resolution, a message was sent that South Africa remained in pursuit of a more just and equitable world. This resolution demands accountability from Israel. It's a courageous move that demonstrates our commitment to a country, to justice, human rights, freedom. The State of Israel was built through the displacement, murder, and maiming of Palestinians, and to maintain their grip on power, they've instituted apartheid to control and manage Palestinians. The institute of apartheid by the State of Israel contravenes international law and is a violation of the human rights of Palestinians. As South Africans, we refuse to stand by while apartheid is being perpetrated again, said Imam. The move, however, has been rejected by the SA Zionist Federation that said the motion would have an effect on Israel, but sent a worrying message to South African Jews, Christians, and Muslims wishing to travel or make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land for religious reasons. It called on the ANC to welcome the State of Israel. This decision comes at a time when South Africans are being brought to their knees by a crippling energy crisis, with rolling blackouts destroying businesses and livelihoods on a daily basis. This is taking place against a backdrop of of record-breaking unemployment figures, while crime runs unabated alongside a murder rate that's higher than the death toll in Russia's war on Ukraine. We note that this symbolic act took place during a Purim, a Jewish holiday that commemorates how Jews were saved from genocide at the hands of Haman in ancient Persia. It's ironic that Parliament would pick this day of all days to target and sanction the world's only Jewish state, whose existence serves to prevent another genocide against the Jewish people. And from onecoal.com, South Africa downgrades Israeli embassy over ongoing apartheid, and they should know. The Middle East Eye reports that the South African Parliament has voted to downgrade the Israeli embassy in Pretoria to liaison status. The resolution was introduced by the tiny center-left National Freedom Party, which has only 2 seats in Parliament. Its passage was assured, however, when the African National Congress supported it with 230 seats. The ANC holds 57.5% of the seats in the South African Parliament. Kuthar Sambo at the South Africa's Radio 91.3 quoted NFP member Ahmad Munzur Sheikh Imam as saying in late February, "As a country that's experienced the devastating effects of apartheid, we cannot turn a blind eye to the gross human rights violations being committed against Palestinians. It's imperative for South Africa to take a stand and speak out against those atrocities. We therefore call upon all political parties to support this resolution to downgrade South Africa's embassy in Israel." Lelohonolo Mashigo wrote at the Star that the NFP highlighted that during the apartheid era, downgrading diplomatic relations with South Africa was a powerful tool for the international community to exert pressure on the apartheid government to end its discriminatory policies. He then quoted the NFP party statement, "By downgrading our embassy in Israel, we'll send a strong message that South Africa will not tolerate or condone any country that practices racial segregation and apartheid-like policies. This action will put democratic pressure on Israel to end its discriminatory policies." Imam is quoted as asserting, "The attempts to reduce the Palestinian struggle for liberation to merely a religious conflict is a reductionist approach that ignores the complex and varied nature of the oppression and human rights violations being committed against Palestinians by the State of Israel." We urge all MPs to stand for freedom, justice, and human rights by supporting this resolution. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, the leader of the African National Congress, has been pressured on this issue since soon after he came into office in 2018. As far back as January 2019, Ramaphosa said in response to a question on when the downgrade would happen, "Government's in the process of giving effect to a resolution of the government party that South Africa should downgrade its embassy in Israel. Our approach is informed by our concern at the ongoing violation of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and the refusal of the government of Israel to enter into meaningful negotiations to find a just and peaceful resolution to this conflict. We're also concerned about the resurgence of confrontation and conflict in this region and about the grave humanitarian cost of further intransigence. Our approach is also informed by an appreciation of the constructive role South Africa is being called upon to play in the quest for a peace in the Middle East. We're clear on our support for the achievement of the Palestinian state alongside the right of the State of Israel to exist in peace and security with its neighbors. In implementing this conference resolution, we're mindful of South Africa's responsibility to continue engaging with all parties to the conflict, to see where we'd be able to provide assistance. As such, the South African government remains seized with the modalities of downgrading the South African embassy in Israel, and we will communicate once cabinet is fully finalized on this matter. It seems clear that this step was a long time coming, and also that ANC has also been dragging its feet on it. My guess is that the ANC bit the bullet now because of the extremist character of the current Israel government, some ministers of which have openly spoken about wiping out Palestinian villages or formally annexing Palestinian territory. Older South Africans who remember the apartheid government of the 1970s and 80s and who have visited the Israeli-occupied West Bank have said that it brought bad memories flooding back into their minds and that the situation actually seemed to them worse than South Africa's apartheid had been. Apartheid is the Dutch word for racial segregation. At a recent African Union meeting, the Israel delegate was asked to leave. Ramaphosa said he supported that decision. And from Wafa, South African Parliament passes historic resolution to downgrade the embassy in Israel. The National Freedom Party said it was ecstatic that the draft resolution to downgrade South Africa's embassy in Israel has been passed by Parliament. This is a historic moment for our country and a demonstration of our unwavering commitment to justice, human rights, and freedom, it said in the statement. This is a moment Madiba would be proud of, and by passing this resolution, we're sending a powerful message to the world that South Africa remains a beacon of hope and a shining example of what's possible when we come together in pursuit of a more just and equitable world. This resolution demands accountability from Israel. It's a courageous move that demonstrates our commitment as a country to justice, human rights, and freedom. The state of Israel was built through the displacement, murder, and maiming of Palestinians, and to maintain their grip on power, they've instituted apartheid to control and manage Palestinians. This institution of apartheid by the state of Israel contravened international law and is a violation of the human rights of Palestinians. As South Africans, we refuse to stand by while apartheid is being perpetrated again. While many will argue that downgrading the South African embassy in Israel will impair its ability to act as a neutral mediator in the conflict, the NFP said it believes neutrality is not an option in the face of oppression and human rights violations. The sentiment was best articulated by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who said, "If you're neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor." The NFP also thanked all South Africans who supported this resolution and demonstrated their commitment to human rights and justice. It's through the collective efforts of all of us that we can make a positive impact on the world and create a better future for all, it said. And from Ynet, South Africa Parliament passes resolution to downgrade embassy in Israel. Chairman of the South African Zionist Federation says the vote's a result of divisive politics and groups playing to their domestic base and will have no impact on Israel. The South African Parliament voted this week to downgrade the status of the South African embassy in Israel in solidarity with Palestinians. The resolution was proposed by the National Freedom Party, which has only 2 seats in the South African Parliament but allied with the ANC to push the resolution through. Despite the fact that the resolution passed, it was viewed as a highly partisan move that was supported by only 52% of the parliament. It's such a difference in the way this same story is reported by different outlets. In a statement that NFP said the party is ecstatic that the draft resolution to downgrade South Africa's embassy in Israel has been passed by Parliament, while many will argue that the downgrading our embassy will impair our ability to act as a neutral mediator in the conflict. The NFP believes neutrality is not an option in the face of oppression and human rights violations. The resolution was met with criticism from the South African Zionist Federation, which issued a statement condemning the vote. The SAZF also emphasized the hypocrisy of the motion, noting that the ANC government's created a foreign policy that aims to befriend dictatorships and bash democracies. It obsesses over Israel, which is the size of our Kruger National Park, and at the same time hosts Navy war drills with Russia, responsible for horrific crimes and the deaths of thousands of innocent Ukrainian civilians over the past year. Chairman of SAZF, Rowan Palavin, told Ynet in a comment, "This symbolic motion doesn't represent the position of the majority of South Africans who are either neutral or positively disposed towards Israel." This is almost propaganda. And from Israel Hoyam, the Parliament of South Africa voted Wednesday to downgrade ties with Israel in what's a culmination of many years of rocky relations with the Jewish state. The measure was backed by 208 lawmakers, while 94 opposed it. The move will see Israel's embassy in the capital, Pretoria, downgraded to a liaison office. The measure was introduced by the National Freedom Party, which has 2 members in Parliament, to protest what it considers to be a policy of apartheid and discriminatory practices against Palestinians. This is a moment Mandela will be proud of. He always said our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. The left-wing party said in a statement Wednesday, the state of Israel has built through the displacement, murder, and maiming of Palestinians, and to maintain their grip on power, they've instituted apartheid to control and manage Palestinians, read the statement, which continued as South Africans, we refuse to stand by while apartheid is being perpetrated again. So I was thinking, let's look up the 2 members of the National Freedom Party. See what their names are. See if they had any more to say about Israel. Oh, the National Treasurer, Ahmed Mansour Sheikh Imam, is part of the National Freedom Party. Cynthia Mbali Shinga and Magwaza Msibi. Oh no, Magwaza Msibi was not reappointed. Let's see, current NFP members. Well, we know one of them is Mansour Sheikh Imam. And we got a couple of quotes from him. Let's see if there's anything else out there. Mansour. Imam. Mansour Sheikh Imam. Oh, yeah, there's one more article and it's Israel leaning that includes his name. So with that, I'm going to open up a channel.
Beam me up, Mr. Spark.
Beam me up.